I know the Niners won on Sunday.
Won? The term
Yeah.
is dominated.
And
Your
by the way,
Super Bowl contending, allegedly.
and by
Cowboys. Nice job, Homer.
God. And I know the Niners won the game, but I find it more interesting. I find the Cowboys more interesting coming out of this game just because of the Cowboys. Whatever.
I mean, they do say Superman is a boring comic book character, but go ahead.
I think the coming out of this game though, it's not that they lost the game. I mean, I think everybody picked the Cowboys to lose.
Oh, so apparently you didn't see this past week's episode of the Student of the Game podcast, bing, where I hosted Jim Neese, and on that show he picked his and your Cowboys.
Well, I said us. I didn't say him. He's a homer.
Homer.
We don't. But to his credit, he's a lot more gutsier on his picks this year than he has been in years past.
Whoa.
Less fence sitting on his end.
God, listen, when Big Jim of the Huddle Up podcast hears about this, bing, he's gonna be all up on your ish in the texts. Anyway.
Facts over feelings, buddy. Who cares? But
and then you Ben Shapiro woke Jim. You're in real trouble, EJ Christian.
Yeah, I know. Tune in tonight, 8:00 on 8:30 rather, on YouTube, on Facebook, on Twitter /X, what do you call it? Tonight on the Huddle Up. But the conversation here is the Cowboys. It's not that they lost the game; it's the way they lost. And the thing is it's like San Francisco just like methodically just beat the shit out of them. It wasn't one of those things where like Dallas like played horribly, those stuff. It's just that San Fran just dominated them. Like you just knew from the word go, yeah, we're just a better team than you are.
Top to bottom, yeah.
It's just that simple for me.
I didn't expect, what was it, 42-10? I did not expect
42-10 and left points on the field.
Right. I did not expect this to be that dominant. I really had more, what's his word, gravitas in my mind when it came to the Cowboys defense. But I think the most interesting point are a couple coaching things that could have been a little bit different. Mm-hmm. I heard Shannon Sharp talking about it. I would not have put Micah Parsons on Trent Williams either. Yep. I put Micah Parsons on the other side, and let's see something to get in Brock Purdy's face. The dude does not turn the ball over and still hasn't against this defense that was alleged to be among the NFL's top 2 in the 8-2, as one person put it to be. Shouts to Ashley Baker of the Sports After Dark podcast / Twitter space.
I think the thing that concerns me is that, obviously I'm looking at Big Jim's Twitter feed during the game, which by the way he promised us, which by the way he promised us that his wife would take his phone. So you saw what I did on the first touchdown when he the first time he tweeted on there, he's like, "Oh, this game's over already." And I go, "Good to see that your wife didn't take the phone yet."
Oh yeah, I did see you saying that. The thing I saw in that first touchdown was the refs. Anyways.
Yeah. I'm a little concerned now for the Cowboys, not because of this loss.
Don't be such a fanboy. Relax.
But I went through the schedule. After the game, and
here comes the schedule.
on one hand,
talk. It's so
on one hand, I was saying, well, okay, look, are they as good as the Niners and the Eagles? Probably not, but it's still a good team. We're not gonna go as far as
at no point, EJ Christian, have you that I can remember. Well, maybe you did it once when you put the Cowboys over the Eagles or something, but at no point was the question asked of us or anybody consensusly in the media outside of Dallas putting the Cowboys ahead of the Eagles or the 49ers that I can immediately remember. Right. You might have done it a couple times in Tool time, but thus you are a Tool thing.
Yeah, shut up. Wait a minute. Nice hair today, buddy, for the record.
Thank you.
No, but on one thing, I want to bring the panic down a second. It's like, okay, why are we panicking? Okay, you lose the Niners, cool. It's still one loss. Even if you lost by 3, it's still a loss. Okay, right, slice it. Then I looked at the schedule. I'm like, ooh, wait a second. This might be a little tougher than I thought coming to the year. Now, for the record, I had the Cowboys before the year going to the Super Bowl.
Which was ridiculous, and I tried to tell you, but you wouldn't listen.
Granted, we still got a whole season to play, so they can still change the narrative. Of course, it's still games we played.
I have no problem swinging morning stars at you on this. I am that.
You love that. So I give you their next 3 games: at Chargers, Rams, and at Eagles. That's the next 3. Coming off this loss here.
Yeah.
That's tough. That Chargers game is going to be tough. Look, I'm not saying that I might still pick Dallas this next week to win on Monday Football. I'm not saying that I might still pick Dallas win against the Rams. Eagles game, we'll see how the Eagles look like in a couple weeks. They're still 5-0. But this schedule ain't that easy. I mean, then you got obviously the Giants and the Panthers next 2 weeks after that, but that's nothing. Commanders, those games are always kind of frisky because of the divisional optics and whatever. Then you got Seattle and Philadelphia, Buffalo, Miami, Detroit. Whew. Kyle, because I know Big Jim said I can't see more than 5 more wins in the schedule. I'm like, you're being crazy. I mean, optics wise, I can see his point here.
Well, here's the reason why I can't argue with you, EJ Christian. If you'll remember on the Student of the Game podcast, bing! Even though I hate to keep calling Lady Ash out like this, she had 13 wins, and I had to really explain why I could come up with only 8 on the schedule.
You had 8 and 9, right? Yeah,
I had 8 and 9.
You had a massive regression. You had a massive regression this year.
Yeah, I did. And it's not so much because, listen, I knew the defense was going to be awesissimo, but having a great defense, you got to score the football sometimes. And at the end of the day, there's a lot of teams they're playing that can score the football. All right. Now, the Chargers may still blow it because your boy Staley has just been horrendous. That team under him has been horrendous on defense. Kellen Moore, with Justin Herbert, I think is amazing. And should Staley get fired, it'll be unfortunate because I think Kellen Moore is a great coaching option. Maybe the spot
he might be the option because they ain't going to pay money for a top head coach.
Well, here's my whole thing. Maybe the Spanoses will be dumb enough to promote Kellen. Let's not speculate too much.
Not dumb enough. Cheap enough.
But let's stay here. Let's stay with the Cowboys. I'm predicting enough disaster. I don't want our guy Booga Peters hearing this and having a coronary. Okay,
you'll be okay.
Booga Peters, my favorite San Diego Charger fan and San Diego Charger personality on this Pro Sports Fan app. More on that later at some point. Anyways, listen. At the very least, just so I have the opportunity to say something that you say all the time about teams, these next 3 games rate anywhere from at the highest to difficult to at the lowest frisky. So, yeah, your Rams are frisky, EJ Christian. So, I really think the Rams are dangerous. I think that could kind of qualify for a trap game because in that locker room they're going to be looking to head to Philadelphia, thinking they can get past the Rams as they are hosting them. And let's just say that would be an entirely problematic mistake. I'm also hoping that Micah Parsons isn't too banged up from the 49er experience to be a significant impact against the Chargers. The Chargers' offense is amazing and balanced.
His mouth certainly isn't banged up. He's talking a lot of shit even after the game.
No, see, that's the thing. Okay, let's pump the brakes on that.
You want the quotes?
Well,
he has two quotes.
For context, add the quotes for the audience.
Yeah, I'm gonna get it right now. But keep talking. I'm gonna get it right now because
to help set up like kind of where it is. I've seen a lot of stuff out there on the socials where people are just completely lambasting the Cowboys for not rolling over in the press conference. They're not just supposed to say, well, gosh, go ahead, EJ Christian. Looks like
here's the first quote he had after the game, literally hours of the game. Quote, I don't think they're really at a high level than us. I think we're the same caliber playoff team, if not the same talent standard as them. I just feel like we need to reconsider some things, get together and fix some things. I feel like it was a few plays away. The score doesn't really shape up what happened out there.
Okay, so what's he supposed to say is my question. Hey, how'd you feel about the game? Wow, man, listen, if we sucked any harder, we could all be cast for porn stars. And we really need to go to Mr. Jones and request that he burn down Jerry World and we not take another stab for the rest of the year. This MFR is over, as declared by Ernest Christian, much to the joy of Matt Muehlheisen. Shouts to the Huddle Up Podcast, Bing. And, Micah Parsons would even throw the Bing in there in this post game. That's a bunch of coach speak, guys. Like, don't you know coach speak when you hear it? That's it. He can't just quit on his team. He's a captain. He's a star. Heck, one could argue that more so than Dak. He's the franchise player in there. He can't show a lack of confidence in that situation. He's got to say shit like that. That's the job.
His second quote, because George Kittle actually wore a "Fuck Dallas" T-shirt under his uniform.
That was I don't know how. I'll put it this way: fan Kyle enjoys it. Media Kyle is like, I don't know, man.
But when you score a hat trick against the Cowboys in that same game, you can do the hell you want. Anyway, so okay.
Again, fan Kyle enjoyed it.
Yeah. Micah also had a response to that too, saying this. We got something for that. Just trust. If we see them again, just trust, and we're gonna put it just like that. I ain't gonna put too much on it. You're gonna make it personal. We can make it personal. That's cool. Again, Micah, no offense, you are one of the best players in football. They beat you 3 times in a row. At some point, you're going to have to just bring it.
So there's that. I don't like that angle. Where I'll agree with you here is the best move when it comes to that is silence. Because if you respond, then they know they have you.
Yeah. Well, and to your point, they do.
Well,
these responses are just ridiculous.
I am on record talking about history has been severely unkind to the Cowboys and the Packers of late in the playoffs versus the 49ers. I mean, listen, the Packers had done so bad against the 49ers that Aaron Rodgers tanked it so he couldn't make the playoffs, so he wouldn't have to get beat by the 49ers again. That's a joke, not real. Chill out. But shout to my guy, to Darrell Owens, for actually making that joke first. But listen, I on the first one with the coach speak, I'm mad at. Micah Parsons did not have to engage in this. By the way, what are you going to do with George Kittle? You think you can cover Kittle in space? You ain't Fred Warner. Stop it. And that was a blunder. I agree with you.
So I ask you this. Panic meter 1 to 10. Cowboys, based on what I told you, the schedule, the whole 9. Are you concerned? Forget the playoffs. Obviously, we know that there are tears in this. We know that it's San Francisco.
Playoffs?
Right. We know it's San Francisco. We know it's San Fran and Philly, right?
I just want them to win 9 games.
Clearly, Dallas is not on that tier right now at this point. Okay.
What you mean, like when you say that tier?
That top tier 1 with Philadelphia and San Francisco right now.
Okay.
There's as they say on the streets, there's levels to this. They're not on that level just yet. They're level 2 at this point still.
I've always had them at tier 2.
Correct.
So, when you say to me panic and disappointment, and I'm not dissing you, this is for those at large who will hear my response. How can I be panicked when they are what I thought they were?
Right. But
I didn't let them off the hook, and neither did the Niners.
Right, but you actually think they're worse than I thought. You have them worse than I thought. I haven't won the Super Bowl, going to the Super Bowl as a wild card. But again, you look at the schedule, as I just mentioned a while ago. Scale 1 to 10, 10 being most panicked, 1 being most. Just as a playoff team at this point, are you concerned? 1 to 10, panic meter.
Okay, so since you're posing it as the prospect of them making the playoffs, 5.
Okay.
Like, they got spanked by a superior team.
Right.
How many weaknesses did that reveal? I mean, I think what it showed us is that Dak Prescott is old. I think it showed us that Dak Prescott is not mobile enough to do that part of his game. Thus, he is incomplete as a quarterback asset. And I can't take credit for that take. I'm not the only one coming up with it, but I think we have been shown that in playoff scenarios against elite elite top 10 NFL defenses, he's going to shrink if he's put in position to have to move. If they play against an offense that does not make mistakes, the 49ers, the Eagles make mistakes. That's a winnable game. We saw the Cowboys do it with a Riptide Rush, if I remember correctly.
Right.
But I feel like that's the thing. People are like, oh, the 49ers showed the blueprint. You tell me some other defenses out there that have Fred Warner and Bosa in such a fashion with a great defensive tackle core, by the way, and a defensive back core that isn't the strongest on the team, but is still pretty good to do the job done. The blueprint is great. Hey, listen, you know what, EJ Christian? If I hire an army of experts to build a house, sure, they'll build me a mansion. But if I don't have, if I'm hiring you and your kids to build me a house, I might have a tree house. No offense to you and your kids, but That's the difference. Like when they're playing the other teams that have that capability, that's a problem. How many teams have that capability? That's why I'm not panicked beyond a 5. Now, to your point, the Rams are frisky, and that defense with Aaron Charles Donald in the middle might be enough to expose Dak. That could be a loss, and that, I think, would make the franchise panic because everybody thought the Rams, including us, would struggle. Well, actually, in fairness, you and I, me especially, but you and I think we didn't know what to think. I had the Rams with 7 wins. So
I had him at 8. But a lot of us we
were both huge optimists with those numbers. That's my point.
But the thing is, also, I could have seen the scenario where they won 10+ because of Stafford being back.
Yeah.
And then a scenario where he's hurt and they were like under 8-7 wins. So it's one of those things where we
didn't know. Who knew that they would emerge another receiver? By the way, another great receiver to emerge under Matt Stafford's watch, but nobody wants to talk about John Matthew Stafford. Next question, EJ Christian.
Before we get out on the Cowboys real quick, Dak. He has a ceiling. Obviously, he is what he is. He's a good quarterback.
The problem is the ceiling got lower too, but continue.
It's getting lower every year. To be honest with you, I won't go so far as say he cost him his game because the game was pretty much over from the word go. They play out of their game plan. Their game plan these days is to run the football, and then Dak will throw the ball when necessary. But of course, like you fall behind by 2 scores during the game, you're forcing Dak to do something that, to be real though, is not typically his biggest strength, which is throwing the football.
Well, and this is the same Dallas Cowboy offensive line that was so great that propelled Tony Romo and DeMarco Murray. You saw what happened to Murray's career once he left that line, right? He wasn't a bad back, but he was just a serviceable one. He wasn't, world beating, right? And I think with Dak, it's the same sort of thing, right? He came in to take over for Romo, 4th overall pick, was better at the time than guys who were top level. Right. If he doesn't run into that buzzsaw of Aaron Charles Rodgers in his first playoff game where he did the job and the defense just couldn't finish it, right? We might be having Dak Prescott, the comps to Dak and Brock Purdy, though they probably shouldn't have, are surprising me with their accuracy.
Right.
So,
do you
Shanahan's a better coach than Dak ever had.
So here's my question though, Dak. Because he's gonna be due some new money soon. If you're Jerry Jones, is he? I mean, you cut him. That's a $60 million cap hit this offseason. You keep him, but you also risk having to pay him more money because the market is shifting again, of course. And Dak, of course, whatever it may be, he's gonna ask for money no matter what. And maybe that's
I'm not sure. I'm not sure what you mean by that. So, like, if you cut him,
is Dak Prescott the long-term solution to Dallas right now, or should they go after another quarterback?
Okay, and this is why money ties in so hot. Like, I appreciate you acknowledging that, right? So here's what I think the real problem is, right? Mm-hmm. When it comes to Dak, he obviously has got a big price tag on him, right?
Yeah.
Normally, the way you solve for that is you find somebody so damn desperate that they need anybody to fill that gap.
Yeah.
And they'll eat the cost because, they're just trying to field something, right? Mm-hmm. Dak's so expensive, I don't know that you'll have a taker that's foolish enough to do that here, right? And since we're doing contract talk, I got to put on the glasses, right?
No worries.
Yeah, so right now, if I'm looking here, see, this is the problem. I meant to look this up before I got on the show, and then I didn't.
It's okay.
Asking, and I'm like, son of a. So yeah, next year's number, if they cut him, is 61 mil, like you said.
Right.
Versus a cap hit of 40. I think they're stuck with him one more year, EJ Christian.
Yeah.
They're stuck with him one more year. The good news, air quotes, good news with that is, here's another scenario. This is okay. This is a scenario that the Cowboys hope for, but I don't think it's very likely. They trade Dak. That's the move here. I don't think anybody's arguing with that. We can talk about who potential takers might be, but here's the thing. Whoever's trading him is going to be doing it as a starter, right? he's not gonna be able to slash his price to back up money. That's not happening here. Okay.
Right.
Also for Dak, yeah. So somebody would have to take that trade. We could talk about what a good price would be, third, second round pick, whatever. And Dak would have to be assured that he would sign an extension that would not only lower his cap hit, but also be enough compensation to where he would still feel it's worth it. And who knows? I mean, maybe he'll retire after 24. Maybe he'll retire after this season, seeing that his career is a dead end. I don't know. This is entirely speculative.
I mean,
right?
Let's be real. It's not like he's Daniel Jones bad. Like, I mean, the guy's still top 14 quarterback in the league, top half of the league.
But again, when money dictates funny things, right?
Yeah, right.
And if you don't have a value, you get stuck. As much as people want to talk about blackballing, what blackballs you is stuff most likely related to the green, in that you're more expensive than your production. It's called business, people, right? That being said, I make up all these scenarios like Dallas could at least try to shop him and hope some sucker comes in and takes the trade off their hands, or maybe they could subsidize some of the cap hit. That would still be less than the $40 million. You know, they can find a number of ways to mitigate the cost. And actually, that's probably the most likely scenario, is that they trade Dak and subsidize some of the hit that the incoming team would receive, so that he can at least be a stopgap while they find whatever it is. But yeah, no, we're going on and on about this. The long and the short is, it's a complicated situation. The simplest version is that Dak is there at least one more year.
All right, let's go to the team that actually won